Hi everyone, my name is Latimer and I'm currently an occupational therapy student at Boston University completing my doctoral capstone project on yoga for Parkinson's disease. I'm very excited to get started with our class today, and I'm going to be going over some safety recommendations and our setup for the class. So first things first, before you start class today, make sure that it's an appropriate time of the day for you to exercise. So that means that you are well rested and you've taken your medication for the day to manage your symptoms. Be sure to listen to your body throughout class, and if you feel any pain or discomfort in any poses, please stop where you are and get out of the pose or try a different variation that I will show throughout the class. And if the pain continues, consult your doctor or physiotherapist for some other options. As far as our setup for class, you will need a yoga mat or just a soft, comfortable surface for you to practice on. Some of the class will be in a chair, some of the class will be on the floor. So you want it to be squishy and comfortable enough for your knees and your joints as you get down on the ground. You will need at least one chair for class today, preferably a chair without arms, but if you only have a chair with arms, that will work perfectly fine. You will want a water bottle with you, and I encourage practicing next to a wall. As you can see, I will be doing. Throughout class, I'll be showing how we can use the wall for some of these exercises. If you don't have a wall that is available, I recommend a sturdy table or a second chair. And if you know that you don't want to get on the floor today, you'll want a second chair to do some of the postures seated using the other chair instead of getting on the floor. Some other equipment that you might use, props to help increase comfort in your practice, are yoga blocks. I have two. If you don't have a yoga block, you can use a book or stack of books to bring the ground closer to you. You could use a water bottle like what I have, or even a second chair to use as a yoga block and bring the ground closer to you. I will also be using a strap throughout our class today. This is what my yoga strap looks like. If you don't have a strap, you can use a bathrobe tie, which is what I have here, or even a belt. And lastly, I have a blanket, a yoga blanket, but you can use any blanket for while we get on the floor, especially for our knees if you've had any past knee injuries. Be sure to modify physical postures as needed today, especially balancing postures. If you know that you're feeling a little bit off today, take things easy and do what feels right. I recommend practicing barefoot, but if you feel more comfortable, you can have non-slip socks or non-slip shoes on too. And lastly, if you have a mirror in front of you, that may be helpful for some visual feedback to make adjustments as needed, but it's not necessary for the class. Lastly, for safety, please make sure that there is another adult at your residence, and if you are alone, just make sure that there's somebody you could call and contact in case anything happens. And I even encourage you to have your loved ones join these classes with you to add in that social component and that social support for these virtual classes. Thank you so much, and let's get started. Hello everyone. We're going to get started with our class today. This class is going to be focused more on balance. So I encourage you to try and challenge yourself, get out of our comfort zone in a safe environment while we're in a yoga practice next to a wall, next to a chair or a sturdy surface or table that you can hold on to. But I encourage you to explore your limits, push yourself out of your comfort zone while also still being honest with your body, listening to how you're feeling, and not pushing ourselves too far or past our limits today. There's a lot of potential fear maybe with today's class too. A balancing class, it's natural to be thinking about falling. So that is why I really want to emphasize being next to a wall, or you can stay seated and work on a lot of these balancing poses as well. So taking that option if you need to today, if we're feeling a little bit off-centered or off-balance, listening to that and taking the seated option where you're still going to be strengthening the core, strengthening the stabilizing muscles in the feet and the ankles. So there's still similar benefits, and you can still practice and strengthen the same muscles while safely doing this at home. So with that in mind, we have options of how we want to start our balancing class today. We can start in our seated mountain pose, rolling the shoulders back and down, lengthening up through the spine. Hands can rest wherever comfortable, maybe palms up for today's practice. We're inviting in calming, grounding energy. And if you'd like to take more of an active position for our beginning breathing, where we come and arrive to our yoga practice, I'm giving the option to do standing mountain pose as well behind our chair. Like I said, this is more of an active beginning pose, so you can have your hands on the chair. You can also stand against a wall too. And really thinking about the feet, lengthening up through the ankles. Ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, head are all stacked on top of one another, lengthening up as much as we can. And if we're seated, we can maybe allow the eyes to draw closed. If we're standing or we don't want to close the eyes, we can start to soften the gaze gently towards the floor. And starting to notice the breath flowing in and out of the body, whether we're standing or seated. Beginning to deepen the inhales and exhales here. Throughout our practice, we're going to be incorporating some positive affirmations throughout this class. Positive affirmations help change that script that we tell ourselves, our repetitive thoughts that maybe when repeated enough in our heads become beliefs about ourselves. But can we approach this with more curiosity, more compassion towards ourselves, less judgment? And positive affirmations are a great way to flip the script, give ourselves that resilience, curiosity, exploratory mindset to see what we can learn about ourselves, about our bodies, about our mind. So whether we're in standing or again, always have the option for seated at any point, starting to tell ourselves, I am grounded, balanced, and centered in my body and mind. I am grounded, balanced, and centered in my body and mind. And our last one, I honor my journey and embrace my progress. I honor my journey and embrace my progress. I honor my journey and embrace my progress. 3 more breaths here. And coming back to center here, starting to warm up the body. Maybe we're still standing behind our chair. Maybe we're taking a seat now, listening and honoring our body, where we're at today, how we're feeling right now. We're going to come into our body rolls, so allowing one ear to fall towards the shoulder and chin to chest, coming all the way around to the other side. We're sitting up nice and tall. And coming through center, inhaling to shrug the shoulders up towards the ears, and exhaling back and down, moving into our shoulder rolls. And switching directions. Meeting back in center, we're going to come into our rib cage circles. So it can help to put your hands on your actual ribs or even on the hips, and thinking about leading with the chest, going up and over towards the left shoulder or left corner of the room with the heart. Center, pressing the heart forward, over towards the right, and rounding back in the chest. Taking deep breaths in these rib circles to expand the lungs and the respiratory muscles. Switching directions of our circle. And coming back to center. If we're seated, or if I'll demonstrate standing in a moment, we'll walk the feet out and we're going to come into some hip circles here. Dropping with the chest, hands on the thighs, stretching into the hips here. If you're standing and you'd like to remain in this more active warm-up, we can have hands on our hips, feet out wide, greater than hips distance here. Have a nice wide base of support. And we're finding hip circles like so. Switching directions, whether we're seated or standing. And meeting back in center, feet come back together. On our inhale, we come to our cactus arms, chest proud, gaze lifts, big hands. And exhaling, forearms and palms come towards each other, rounding in the upper back, chin to chest. Inhaling, opening up. And exhaling to round out. Moving through the two here. One more round. And hands come back to center. Whether we're seated or standing, we're going to come into our crescent moon. So one arm comes to the side or maybe holds onto the edge of our seat. We inhale our right arm up overhead. And exhaling, lifting up and out of the right hip over towards the left. Finding a side stretch here. Thinking of lifting the chest up towards the sky. And if we're standing, it may look like this. Inhaling, coming through center, and exhaling the right arm down. Right hand at the side or grabs onto the edge of the seat. Inhaling the left arm up and overhead, finding a side stretch over to the right. Seeing where we can lengthen and send the breath in the left side body. Inhaling back to center. And exhaling, switching sides. Right arm reaches up and over. Big breath in. And exhaling to switch. Inhaling the left arm up and over. And exhaling, coming back to center here. So starting to come into our chair flow. You can always bring the block and squeeze it in between the thighs. We're going to go through just 3 rounds here. So inhaling, shifting the weight forward, coming to hover, or maybe we're coming all the way up to powerfully stand. And exhaling, sending the hips back, weight is back in the heels, coming all the way down. 2 more rounds, matching our breath with our movement. Last one, inhaling, powerfully pressing through the legs to come to stand. And exhaling, Tadasana, mountain pose. We can come in front of a wall here with our back against the wall, or we can walk to behind our chair and hold on to the back of the chair here in our mountain pose. 3 breaths here. And starting to wake up the body here, we're going to start to shift the weight from side to side, from one foot to the other, and shifting forward and back. Starting to waken the feet here, gripping with the toes, drawing the belly button in towards the spine to engage the core. Maybe even finding circles with our weight shifts. Switching direction. And switching directions. And last time, switching directions. Starting to wake up those stabilizing muscles in the ankles and the feet. And coming back towards center here, we're going to come into a tree pose. So this is a balancing pose. I'm going to scoot my chair forward so that you can see me a little bit better. We're going to turn so that the chair is on our right side. We're using our backrest here. Left hand is going to come to our hips, and we're going to ground through all 4 corners of the right foot. Our 4 corners are 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's really the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot into the mat here. And we're going to go ahead and kick the left foot out towards the left. Our left leg is opened up to where the knee is pointed towards the sky. We're rolling that left hip open here. And when we're ready, we'll drag that left foot, the sole of the foot, to the inside of the ankle. Left knee is opening out towards the left here. You can also do this in a seated position. And we can stay here with the left toes connected to the ground, using it for support. If we feel good here, we feel challenged, we're working on our balance, coming back to center. If you'd like, you can try and inhale the left foot to where it's resting on top of the calf muscle. We don't want our foot on the knee joint, applying pressure to the knee joint. So making sure the foot doesn't come on the knee. We're either keeping it on the calf, or if you are more flexible, you can bring that foot to the inside of the thigh if you'd like. Hand positions, we can keep that right hand on the chair. We can be against a wall here, have a sturdy table in front of us, and maybe play around with lifting our hands, maybe bringing them to a prayer position, maybe reaching them up if you'd like an extra challenge. And we're going to hold this, and I invite you to count with me and think loud for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Releasing the left foot down, shaking out the arms, shaking out the legs if we need to. And we're going to switch sides. So I invite you just to turn your whole body around, being mindful of this. And left hand is going to come to the chair with the chair on our left side. I'm going to be facing you for this. So same exact thing. Standing up nice and tall, grounding in through the left foot, right hand comes to hip. We're going to kick the right toes out towards the right, and we're opening up that right hip here. Coming into Trikonasana, tree pose. We're going to drag the right toes in to where the toes are on the floor and the sole of our foot is to the left inside ankle. Opening up that right knee, standing up nice and tall. And having the same options, maybe we lift the right foot to where it's resting on the calf. Still thinking of opening the right hip up. We can be against a wall, hanging onto a chair or a table, or maybe play around with our hand position, bringing hands to heart center, or maybe reaching them up overhead. Think big hands, or pressing our hands together, shoulders back and down. And counting with me loud for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relaxing the right foot, shaking out the arms, shaking out the legs, finding any movements that feel good here. And meeting back in our mountain pose behind our chair. Both hands come to rest on the back before our next standing balancing pose that can also be done seated. So listening to our bodies, coming into whatever variation we need. From our mountain pose, we're going to come into some flamingo steps. We've done this in previous classes. I recommend coming up against a wall here, and you have the options to do them on flat feet. If you want that extra challenge, especially for our balance, you can come high up onto the toes, having one hand on the wall. We're almost marching and thinking of driving the knees up to lift each knee, and slow and controlled, bringing it back down, inhaling to lift, and exhaling to step. And once we get to the top, maybe with our right hand on the wall, we switch going backwards, inhaling right knee up, right foot steps back, right foot plants down, and we shift the weight towards the back foot. Inhaling left knee up, exhaling, stepping the left foot back, shifting the weight into the left foot, inhaling right knee up. And what's great about these online classes is maybe this is something that we really want to practice, and we can always pause and practice a few more rounds than what I'm doing in this class. So going forward and backwards, one more time, thinking of lengthening up. Maybe you don't need your hand on the wall, maybe you have both hands on your hips. And exhaling, sending the weight back. Imagining how we're doing this as we're stepping, where the weight is shifting into. Then meeting back behind our chair, rolling the shoulders back and down, Tadasana, mountain pose. Taking a few centering breaths here, maybe coming into that cooling breath. So from our mountain, we're going to come into another standing balancing pose, turning our bodies again so that the chair is on our right side. Right hand comes to the chair, grounding in through the right foot. We're going to inhale, left hand on the hip, and drive our left knee up towards the sky here. Drawing the belly button in, flexing the foot, feeling nice and strong here. We're going to inhale our left arm up overhead, and exhaling, left arm is going to come wrapping around the outside of the knee to hold on. So we're still flexing the foot here, feeling nice and tall. Maybe we're playing with the weight in this right hand on the chair. And maybe we stay here, working on finding center, finding our balance, maybe lifting that right hand, hand to hip, staying here. Or if you'd like an extra challenge, we can reach that right arm out towards the right to a T and start to open the left hip out towards the left, finding a balance here. Now this is not easy, so thinking about how we're going to fall. If you're going to step down, take a wide step, have a nice wide base of support, have your chair or sturdy table nearby. I recommend doing this against a wall as well for your first time while you're trying this. So left knee is either in center, or we're reaching out, our left knee out towards the left, right arm out towards the right, holding here. Our last challenge is maybe to gaze over through the right hand. And if we fall out, just getting right back in, noticing what we're saying to ourselves. What positive affirmations can we say? I am patient and kind to myself while I explore my balance. Releasing the left foot down, releasing the right arm, shaking out anything that just happened in that moment. Taking a big breath, recentering, regrounding, and then we'll go ahead and switch sides. So just turning our bodies all the way around so that the chair is on the left hand comes to rest on the chair. And this time we're gonna inhale the right knee up towards the sky, right hand to hip. We're flexing the foot here, lengthening up, having that spool of yarn up through the spine. Inhaling the right arm up and overhead. And exhaling, right arm comes to the outside of the knee and we hold here. And maybe we stay here, maybe we play with the weight in our left hand. Engaging the core. Maybe we play with inhaling the left arm out to a T and opening up the right hip out towards the right. This is not easy. Finding our center here, finding something stable in your room or wherever you're at to have a point of view, a gaze at, a drishti in yoga or Sanskrit. Finding that focal point. Maybe we gaze over the left shoulder, through the left hand. For 3, 2, and 1. Welcoming the strength and stability that comes with these balancing postures. If you notice you're really wobbly, that is only getting us stronger. It's stabilizing each wobble. It strengthens our stabilizing muscles in our feet, ankle, knees, hips. It works itself all the way up. So even if you're feeling a little nervous and wobbly or uneasy, it's great that you're challenging yourself and all you're doing is strengthening your muscles more, whether you're doing it seated or standing. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start to make our way onto our mats here, coming to me all the way onto our backs, setting our blocks down. We can roll up the blanket under our neck if we'd like. And we can always stay in a seat if we're not getting on the floor today. Feet go out wide and we'll start to windshield wipe the knees from side to side. Arms come out to a T here. And the next time they drop over towards the right, they'll stay there and the gaze will go over the left shoulder to find a gentle twist. And switching directions of our circle. And taking our time, there's no rush. Both legs lay long. We find a comfortable position here as we settle onto our backs, grabbing our blankets or blocks for support if we need. Arms come at the sides, a few feet away from the body, palms up. Coming into our final relaxation or shavasana. We can have a blanket under the head or the hips or knees here. You can always elevate the feet up against a wall or the chair, just allowing ourselves to fully settle here. If you have more time, I recommend taking 5 to 10 more minutes in our Shavasana. If you're coming out with me, we'll start to slowly wiggle the toes and fingers, rocking the head side to side. From here, we'll bring both soles of the feet onto the mat, inhaling one arm up overhead and exhaling, slowly rolling over to that side, bending the knees, coming into a fetal position. And coming to a comfortable seat, as always, taking the time to thank ourselves for our efforts and our journey throughout our yoga practice and throughout our life. Feeling at peace, grounded, and centered. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste.